The rain fell softly that night, but inside Chief Maxwell's chest a storm was raging. He stood outside the hotel gate, dressed like a driver, the cold air biting through his cheap jacket. Through the windshield, he watched his wife Sandra step out of a cab, smiling a smile she hadn't given him in months. "Please, Sandra, tell me this isn't what I think," he whispered, gripping the steering wheel. But the moment she entered room 204, his world shattered quietly. Inside that room, laughter echoed the kind that once belonged to their marriage. And when another man's hand brushed her cheek, Chief Maxwell froze. All those board meetings, all those sleepless nights building an empire, and this was what waited at the top. He thought he'd seen betrayal before. He was wrong. And that's where his story truly began. Before we dive deeper, if you're listening to this, I want to prove my mom wrong. She said I can't hit 1,000 subscribers, and my friends said I'm wasting my time. So please, subscribe. Well, let's continue. The evening sky over Lagos was painted in gold and sorrow. Chief Maxwell sat behind the wheel of an old Toyota Camry, his reflection ghosting across the rearview mirror. The man staring back at him didn't look like one of the richest CEOs in the city. The cap, the worn jacket, and the fake driver's ID made him nearly unrecognizable. And that was the point. For weeks, the unease had eaten at him. Sandra had become distant, too many late-night calls, too many business meetings that ended with silence. He had brushed it off, telling himself she was just tired. But tonight, something inside him refused to stay quiet. His phone buzzed. It was the private security detail he'd secretly assigned to follow her. "Sir, she just left the house," the man whispered. "Black dress, headed toward mainland." "Follow from a distance," Maxwell replied, voice calm but eyes burning. "No mistakes tonight." Minutes later, he saw her, his wife of 10 years, entering a cab. He trailed behind, the city lights flashing across his face like a confession he couldn't yet say out loud. As the car approached a quiet hotel tucked between warehouses, Maxwell's heart sank. This wasn't a restaurant. This wasn't business. It was betrayal, wrapped in neon light. He parked by the roadside, engine idling, and watched as Sandra stepped out. Her perfume still lingered in his memory. The woman he had built his empire for now walked straight into another man's arms at the hotel entrance. Maxwell's hand trembled on the steering wheel. For a moment, he considered driving away, pretending he hadn't seen it. But when the man leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh, Maxwell's chest felt like it was splitting open. He got out of the car, his shoes crunching against gravel. His disguise held no one recognized him. He followed them silently into the hotel. Room 204. The door was slightly open. Laughter drifted through the crack, intimate, carefree, cruel. He peeped inside and froze. Sandra was sitting on the bed, the stranger's hands on her shoulders. There was music playing their song, the same one she used to hum in the kitchen on Sunday mornings. 1,000 thoughts collided in his mind. Every board meeting, every deal, every sleepless night he had endured for her comfort, and this was his reward. When she leaned closer to kiss the man, Maxwell's breath caught. He felt something break inside him quietly, like glass beneath velvet. "What would you do?" his thoughts screamed. "If the person you loved most betrayed you this way?" He backed away slowly, the walls closing in. But just as he turned, a voice came from behind him. "Who are you?" It was the hotel guard. Maxwell froze. "Just driver," he muttered. "Madam, forget something." The guard squinted, then nodded and walked off, uninterested. Maxwell exhaled shakily, but as he moved toward the exit, another familiar voice echoed from the hallway. "Chief?" He turned, and there stood Anita, Sandra's younger sister. Her eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "I could ask you the same thing," he said, his tone low, steady, dangerous. Anita looked away, guilt flashing across her face. "Chief, please, it's not what you think." He almost laughed. "Then what is it, Anita?" "Because I just watched my wife walk into a hotel with another man." She hesitated, then whispered, "There's more going on than you know. Sandra's been talking to someone feeding her lies about you." "What lies?" Maxwell demanded. That you're cheating, that you're planning to replace her, that you don't love her anymore. Maxwell blinked, confusion overtaking the anger for a moment. Who told her that? But before Anita could answer, loud voices filled the corridor. Reporters, cameras flashing. The hotel guard shouted, "They said there's a billionaire's wife caught cheating here." Maxwell's stomach dropped. He realized instantly this was no coincidence. Someone had tipped the press off. He grabbed Anita's arm. Who did this? Anita's eyes darted nervously. "Chief, you need to leave. They'll destroy you if they find you here." This was planned. The hallway erupted in chaos, flashes of light, shouts, the thundering of shoes. Maxwell pulled his cap low and slipped out a side door, his heart pounding. Outside, the rain had returned, harder this time. He stood by his car, drenched, staring back at the hotel's glowing windows. He could see Sandra through the curtain, panicking, trying to hide her face from the cameras. In that moment, Maxwell wasn't angry anymore. He was numb. He whispered into the night, "Sandra, you've destroyed us both." His phone rang. It was the same private guard again. "Sir, should we stop the media?" Maxwell looked at the hotel, at the chaos that once was his life. "No," he said quietly. "Let them see everything. The truth needs to breathe." He turned the key, engine roaring to life. The rain on the windshield blurred everything, lights, memories, love. As he drove away, his face hardened. This wasn't the end. Whoever orchestrated this humiliation had just made the worst mistake of their life. Chief Maxwell might have lost his heart tonight, but by dawn, he'd reclaim his power. Morning came like a slow confession. Newspapers screamed headlines across Lagos. Billionaire's wife caught in hotel scandal. Chief Maxwell's marriage crumbles in public shame. Chief Maxwell read each line in silence, his jaw tightening with every word. The photos were everywhere, Sandra crying in the hotel lobby, Anita shielding her face, and blurry shots of the unknown man slipping away. Whoever had leaked this story hadn't just exposed Sandra. They had humiliated Maxwell. Publicly. Deliberately. Inside his office, the air was thick with whispers. Employees averted their eyes, pretending to work. Maxwell's empire, Maxwell Holdings, was still standing, but the foundation of respect and fear he once commanded had cracked overnight. He sat in his leather chair, staring at the skyline, when a soft knock came. Anita entered, wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy morning. "Chief," she began, her voice trembling, "I had to come. Sandra's a wreck. She hasn't stopped crying." Maxwell didn't look at her. "She made her choice, Anita. What I want to know is who set this up." Anita hesitated, twisting her fingers. "I think I know, but you might not believe me." "Try me." She stepped closer. "It's Mr. Collins." Maxwell's eyes snapped up. "My deputy?" "Yes," Anita said. "He's been close to Sandra for months. He pretended to be advising her about your marriage, told her you were seeing another woman, that you were planning to replace her in your will. He made her paranoid, angry, and when she started pulling away, he encouraged it." Maxwell's voice turned cold. "And why would he do that?" Anita swallowed hard. "Because he wants what you have, your company, your name, your legacy." For a moment, the room was silent, except for the ticking clock. Maxwell leaned back, exhaling slowly. "I made that man what he is. I trusted him more than my own blood." Anita nodded. "He played you, Chief, and he used Sandra as his weapon." Maxwell rubbed his temples. Everything clicked: the board disagreements, the sudden leaks of confidential data, the silent power struggle he thought he'd imagined. Collins had been planting the seeds for this downfall. The scandal wasn't just about infidelity. It was a corporate coup. He stood up. "Get me everything you know. Every message, every call between them. And Anita." "Yes? Keep this quiet. If Collins wants a war, I'll give him one, but I'll fight it my way." That evening, Maxwell sat alone in his study, a small recorder on the desk. His phone buzzed, Mr. Collins calling. "Perfect timing." "Collins," Maxwell said, voice calm but sharp. "Quite the day, isn't it?" A low chuckle echoed from the other end. "Chief, I'm sorry about what happened. Terrible situation. You know how the media twists things." "Do they?" Maxwell replied, almost like someone fed them the story. Collins paused. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking a question. Well, if I were you, Collins said slyly, I'd focus on saving face. The shareholders are talking. Your wife's scandal is bad for business. Maybe it's time you step down, just for a while. There it was, the mask slipping. Maxwell smiled faintly, his thumb pressing the record button. You think I'd hand over my company to you? Chief, Collins said, voice dripping with false sympathy. The board trusts me now. They want stability. And with your personal life in shambles, you're not exactly the symbol of leadership anymore. So this was your plan all along, Maxwell murmured. Use my wife to ruin me. Let's not dramatize, Collins said. Sandra made her choices. I simply gave her a push. And frankly, you made it too easy. Always too busy, too distracted. She needed comfort. I offered it. Maxwell's hand tightened around the phone. You betrayed your boss and destroyed a marriage for power? Power is survival, Collins replied. And you, Chief, should know that better than anyone. Then the line went dead. Maxwell leaned back, the recorder still blinking red. His pulse steadied. He finally had proof not just of Sandra's betrayal, but of the conspiracy that orchestrated it. Minutes later, his phone rang again. This time, it was Sandra. Her voice was broken, drenched in tears. Maxwell, please. I didn't know what I was doing. He told me you didn't love me anymore, that you were leaving me for someone else. I was stupid. He closed his eyes. Sandra, the man you trusted used you to destroy me. I know, she sobbed. Anita told me everything. Please, forgive me. The reporters, the shame. I can't live with it. Maxwell took a deep breath. Sandra, forgiveness doesn't mean we go back. Sometimes, it means we part ways peacefully. There was silence, the kind that ends a chapter. Will you tell the world the truth? She whispered. I don't need to, he said. The truth always finds its voice. He hung up gently, staring at the city lights flickering outside. Somewhere out there, Collins was celebrating, but it wouldn't last long. The next morning, Maxwell walked into the office with calm precision. The staff froze as he entered the conference room, including Mr. Collins, seated confidently at the head of the table. Gentlemen, Maxwell began, placing a small black recorder on the desk. Before we start, I'd like to play something. He pressed play. Collins's voice filled the room. Is greater than. Sandra made her choices. I simply gave her a push. The board trusts me now. They want stability. The room went silent. Collins's face drained of color. Security, Maxwell said quietly. Escort Mr. Collins out of my building. 2 guards stepped forward. Collins stammered, You can't do this. Maxwell stood, his voice steady. I just did. As Collins was dragged out, Maxwell turned to the board. Loyalty doesn't need to shout. It proves itself in silence. Remember that. He walked out of the room without another word, the sound of the door closing marking the end of one empire and the rebirth of another. For days, Chief Maxwell avoided the spotlight. The world expected him to crumble, but instead, he grew quieter, sharper. The tabloids tried to keep the scandal alive, but rumors have short legs when truth starts to run. Behind the scenes, Maxwell's next move was already unfolding. His legal team filed charges against Mr. Collins for corporate sabotage and defamation. The evidence was airtight recorded confession, leaked messages, and financial traces of bribes paid to journalists. Within 48 hours, Collins was arrested. His smiling mugshot splashed across the same newspapers that once mocked Maxwell. The city buzzed with shock. The narrative had flipped. The billionaire wasn't the fool anymore. He was the man who turned betrayal into strategy. Still, Maxwell felt no joy. His empire was intact, but his home was ashes. One rainy afternoon, Anita visited again. She looked tired, her voice softer. Chief, Sandra's been admitted to a clinic. She hasn't eaten in days. She keeps saying you hate her. Maxwell sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. Hate? No. But forgiveness isn't a door you can kick open. It takes time. Anita nodded. She lost herself, Chief. Collins poisoned her mind. He looked out the window. And I let him. I was so busy building a kingdom that I forgot to protect its queen. For the first time in weeks, He smiled faintly. Maybe we both made mistakes. Maybe we both paid for them. Anita hesitated before saying, "She asked me to tell you she's sorry." "I know," he whispered. "But some apologies echo long after the room is empty." Weeks passed. The scandal faded. Investors returned. Maxwell's company regained its strength, and with it, his confidence. But something in him had changed. He no longer chased numbers or headlines. He began attending morning prayers again, something he hadn't done in years. Every Friday, he drove without security, dressed simply, visiting schools and hospitals he'd once donated to but never visited in person. The people greeted him not as chief, but as a man who'd fallen and risen again. And that's where he met Felicia. She was the head nurse at a children's wing, calm, grounded, with eyes that saw through pretense. When he tried to thank her for her work, she only smiled and said, "You don't thank a candle for burning. It's what it's made for." Those words stayed with him. They began talking first about the hospital, then about life, faith, and second chances. Unlike Sandra, Felicia didn't care about his wealth. She spoke to him like he was human again, not a headline. For the first time in years, he laughed without forcing it. One evening, as the sun set over the lagoon, Maxwell stood outside his car, with Felicia beside him. The city lights blinked below, like fireflies. "Do you ever think about starting over?" she asked gently. He nodded. "Every day. But the hardest part isn't starting, it's forgiving yourself enough to try." Felicia looked at him. "You can't heal if you keep reopening the wound." Maxwell smiled. "You sound like my late mother." "She was a wise woman then," Felicia said softly. He laughed quietly. "She was. She always said, 'God doesn't waste pain. He recycles it into purpose.'" I didn't believe her until now. Months later, Sandra finalized the divorce. There was no bitterness, just silence. She signed the papers with trembling hands, whispering, "I hope you find peace, Maxwell." "I already did," he said. Not proudly, but gratefully. He left the office, inhaling deeply as the wind brushed against his face. There was no empire left to defend, no revenge left to claim. Only life, simple, calm, and real. A year passed. The press had long forgotten the scandal, but one morning, a small blog ran a headline: "Chief Maxwell opens foundation for betrayed families." The story read, "Is greater than, inspired by his own past. Chief Maxwell now funds legal and emotional support for spouses abandoned or manipulated in toxic relationships. He says the foundation's goal is not revenge, but restoration." When a reporter asked him how he forgave, he smiled and said, "Is greater than, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength disguised as peace." And beside him, Felicia smiled, proud, quiet, constant. That night, Maxwell sat on his balcony, watching the rain fall again, the same kind of rain that had once witnessed his heartbreak. Only this time, it felt different, clean, healing. He whispered a prayer into the night. "Thank you, Lord, for breaking me, only to rebuild me better." And, as the thunder rolled softly over the city, Chief Maxwell closed his eyes, no longer haunted by the past, only guided by grace. Life has a way of testing what we claim to love, not to break us, but to reveal what's true. Chief Maxwell learned that betrayal can burn everything you built, but it can also light the path to something purer. In the end, he didn't just win back his name, he won back himself. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from King's Folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway, we'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for watching.